I've had a lot of requests from many of you to give my opinion on the University of the People, which is advertised as the first nonprofit American accredited tuition-free online university. That's a bit of a mouthful. Now, as someone who has completed a traditional four-year degree and also in the process of completing an online MBA through a traditional university, the University of Illinois, I'd like to give my reaction and thoughts on whether University of the People is legit and also is it right for you. So stay tuned. Hey folks, Richard Walls here and welcome to my channel where I talk all things career development and personal finance. So if those two topics are of interest to you, consider subscribing down below and hitting the notification bell so you get notified of when I post new content. So with that said, let's get to it. So University of the People is an interesting one, and I wanted to walk through some of the highlights of the university and really talk through three key details, some of which they advertise very prominently, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail. The first point is that they are tuition free, which means there's no cost for tuition. Now, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is that that's technically true. You don't pay anything for tuition. The program, however, is not free, and they do talk about this on the website, so it's not super hidden, but it's also not very intuitive when you look at the main advertising that the university does. The expenses you do end up paying is, although you don't pay tuition, you do pay fees per exam that you take, and those fees can range from $120 per exam to $240. Not only that, the number of exams you take can vary by program. As an example, an MBA through University of the People is going to run you about $2,940, while a bachelor's in computer science is estimated at $4,860. So while there's no tuition, a lot of these fees are going to add up to thousands of dollars that, again, if you're coming into this program thinking everything's free, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. That being said, it's still amongst the least expensive options for a degree out there. To add, there's also financial aid options that can make these programs even more accessible. The second point is accreditation. If you're going to be spending money on a degree and you're going to spend the time to pursue that, you want to make sure generally that the university is accredited by a third-party agency that says, hey, we've looked at this program and everything looks good. The institution is accredited by the DEAC, which is the Distance Education Accrediting Commission, which is a national accreditation. Now, if you were to research this topic, really what you'll be researching is the difference between a nationally accredited university and a regionally accredited university. Now, in my opinion, accreditations are more or less a secondary element to the school's actual reputation and brand, and any traditional universities, since they have a regional accreditation, they're also universities that have been around for many decades or a century plus. So that's probably what I care a little bit more about, is what kind of history does the university have. Now, different accrediting bodies have different standards by which they measure a university to judge whether that institution should be accredited by that agency. But short of it is, I would say it's difficult to say, really, as it stands with accreditations, to say this one is clearly better than the other one in terms of the standards that they have for universities. So let's put that aside for the moment. The one drawback that I see with the national accreditation is that it's generally not recognized by regionally accredited universities. So let's say hypothetically you wanted to transfer credits from University of the People into a, well, I would say more traditional university, one that's regionally accredited. You may not be able to transfer those credits. But apart from that, this program does check the box of being accredited. Now, third point, also pretty important, is the quality of education. Admittedly, this is probably a bit subjective because everyone has different preferences when it comes to learning. However, this is where you'll realize how the university is able to charge such a low price for their programs. First point to note is that all the instructors are volunteers. It's pretty much all volunteer based. And there does appear to be some criteria as it relates to educational background that University of the People requires, and perhaps some other elements are included like work experience to see where the instructor might best fit within the different programs that the university has to offer. But these aren't the professors that you're thinking of as you think of traditional universities. In my view, this is not necessarily a bad thing. I've certainly in my time in school, traditional universities, I've had some professors that I didn't learn very well from, that I didn't think were all that great. And then I've had a lot of really great instruction from free resources online from YouTube. So it really depends. So while there's still structure to these courses, the way that the university keeps their costs low is that they use what they term as open education resources versus traditional textbooks. Now, what is open education resources? These are literally just online links to different resources that you can access on your own if you really wanted to, without having to be in this program. And they can actually be Wikipedia links. They can be links to other resources that other universities have put together. But as opposed to you finding all these resources on your own, the benefit here is that, or at least the stated benefit, is that these courses, or rather these resources, are selected and they're curated to create the course structure and the course content. So it's not just a hodgepodge of different links that have no connection. It's all relevant and it all makes sense within a course. Now, this may feel really cheap, for lack of a better term, but in reality it's not that bad of an idea. Me personally, I've learned about as much, if not more, from free online resources than I have in many years of schooling and textbooks and formal education. And even when it comes to my career, if I'm trying to figure something out, of course there's a lot of resources within the company, but then there's a lot of stuff I have to Google or find on YouTube. Now, I would say the one drawback is that I haven't actually seen exactly which links they use for some of these courses, but depending on what those resources are, you may or may not be getting something that's been fully edited or peer-reviewed. For example, when I read a textbook, even if the material and content and the way that it's presented is a little bit on the drier side, at least I can have some pretty good assurance that the content that I see here has been edited for accuracy and that the material is solid. Lastly, there are discussion forums, and it seems like in this university, a lot of the learning is done peer-to-peer. And not only that, the grading also appears to be peer-to-peer, which that can be a little bit of a mixed bag. A lot of online courses or a lot of online platforms like Coursera, especially when it comes to open-ended questions that require written answers, a lot of that is going to be peer-reviewed.